Items Update, the channel for all things motocross. From the latest news to exclusive content, we've got you covered.
With just 3 rounds remaining, including today, it's safe to say we're in the home stretch of the 2023 season of Monsterenergy AMA Supercross. Things have been about as tight as anyone could hope for in the 450SX class, with Eli Tomac and Cooper Webb slugging it out for control of the championship, and guys like Chase Sexton, Justin Barcia, Ken Roczen, and more, also owning a portion of the spotlight here and there. But it's been Tomac who's made moves to begin taking ownership of the title as the season enters the twilight phase. He's stacked a significant number of points on Webb at recent rounds and now leads the championship by 11 points. If Webb wants to stay in this thing, he needs to fire back hard today. Maybe he'll get some help from guys like Barcia, who won his first race of the season last week, and Sexton, who's been crazy fast when he's able to stay off the ground. One rider who won't be part of the action tonight is Aaron Plessinger, who crashed hard last week and is still feeling the effects. In 250SX action, things aren't nearly as close. In fact, the championship is almost certain to be wrapped up by Hunter Lawrence today. Lawrence holds a commanding 49-point lead over Hayden Deegan in second. That means all he has to do is score 3 points and he's the 2023 250SX East champ. In case you're wondering, that's 20th or better. Lawrence has got this in the bag. That doesn't mean the racing won't be excellent, however. Deegan and Max Anstie, who won his first career Supercross race last week, are separated by just a single point, with Deegan holding the advantage. Both have been riding great all season, and neither one of them wants to be the one who finishes the season in third. Keep on an eye on this one, it could get nuts. The track here in Nissan Stadium looks good. The region had some rain in the last few days, and it definitely made its way into the dirt here, but fortunately they were able to build it quickly and get the lanes tarped before any real damage could occur. Yesterday afternoon on track walk there was plenty of standing water in places, and the transitions between jumps were quite muddy, but don't expect that to be an issue today. They had mounds of dry dirt saved to spread where needed, and they worked hard to get today's racing surface into good shape. There are still a few soft spots this morning, but expect the track to shape up as the day progresses. 250SX first qualifying session. Jordan Smith came out of the gate firing in the first 250SX session, posting a 55.959 early, which was about 2 seconds faster than anyone else would post for a few laps. Hunter Lawrence would bump Smith on his 6th lap though, bettering him with a 54.756. Joe Shimoda, who recently returned from a broken collarbone, took over the lead on his 7th lap with a smoking time of 54.092. That was fast enough to stand for the rest of the session, with Lawrence 54.190, Smith 54.400, Jeremy Martin 55.022, and Max Anstie 55.787 rounding out the top 5. He may not have been fastest in this session, but Smith looked very good. He was flying through sections, changing lines when necessary, and the ruts between the jumps didn't seem to bother him in the least. Elsewhere, one of the rhythm lanes must have had a tricky spot because several guys crashed hard in the exact same spot, including Marshall Welton and Tom Vielle. They got up and seemed okay, fortunately. 450SX first qualifying session. To the surprise of nobody, Sexton started setting fast laps right away, but it didn't take long for Tomac to get going, and on the 5th lap he turned a 53.500. 2 laps later he lowered his own time, this time reporting a 53.478. Just like that, the fastest lap of the session was set, and nobody else would challenge Tomac's time. Sexton turned a 53.732 for second, with Barcia 53.820, Roczen 54.219, and Jason Anderson 54.266 rounding out the top 5. Roczen ended the session by throwing a gigantic whip over the finish line. If he's feeling good he could do some damage later today. So far there hasn't been much variation in the rhythm lanes, although several laps and some of the guys did start testing out a quad in one of the lanes. If everyone's doing it in the second qualifying session, we'll know they figured out it was faster. 250SX Combine qualifying session. Hayden Deegan rocketed out of the gate just ahead of Talon Hawkins to nab the mock hole shot and immediately started ripping and, not surprisingly, set a fast time of 54.839 right away. Jordan Smith, who'd been shadowing Deegan in the opening stages, quickly unseated him however, with a blistering 54.058. From that point the times just started falling. Chris Blows and Hunter Lawrence dipped into the 53-second range, but Max Anstey topped them all with a 53.670. Not to be outdone, Smith, who looks like he's on fire today, threw down a 53.325, only to see Lawrence shove him out of the way with a 52.407. That time would final stand, with Smith's 53.325 being good enough for second, and Shimoda 53.407. Deegan 53.576, and Anstey 53.670 rounding out the top 5. Blows had a good session too, turning in a 53.976, which was the 6th fastest of the session. Vial had another crash in this one but popped up pretty quickly and rejoined. 450SX Combine qualifying session. Roxanne looked great right away in this one and quickly shot to the top of the board with a 53.052. Barcia would later take over, posting a 52.890, but it was Sexton's eventual 52.580 that would end up ruling the day. Cienciarlo had a good session too, ending up in second. Jason Anderson crashed in the whoops in this one. He damaged his rear fender in the crash and had to deal with it flopping around and slapping his backside for the rest of the session. The dirt isn't as wet and soft as it was earlier today, and after deep ruts developed between the jumps in the first qualifier, the track crew flattened them with tractors. Since then the drier dirt hasn't rutted up nearly as bad, and we saw fewer crashes in rhythm lanes. If things shape up well we could have an epic track for today's racing.